Hi, please sit down. I was just thinking about a strange thing I've noticed. You know how often people complain about a lack of choice. I have no options. I have nothing to choose from. I wish I had more opportunities. And yet, we live in an era when people have never in history had so much choice. Just think about it. Thousands of professions, hundreds of ways to earn money, endless courses and paths for development, millions of potential partners on dating apps, thousands of films and series available at a click. We are literally drowning in opportunities. And what happens? Yesterday, a young man came in, a regular customer, nothing special. He comes to the counter and spends 20 minutes studying the menu. 20 minutes. He asks about every type of coffee, about the milk, about the syrups. He analyzes, compares, asks again. And there's a line behind him, and I can see people getting nervous, and he himself is getting nervous. In the end, he orders a regular cappuccino. The very one he intended to order from the beginning. And you know, I understand him, because sometimes I myself spend half an hour on Netflix scrolling through the catalog. I read descriptions, watch trailers, add things to my watch later list, and in the end, I either choose nothing or I put on something familiar that I've seen 100 times. So I'm thinking, what's the deal? Why doesn't abundance of choice make us happy? Why is it that the more doors are open to us, the harder it is to walk through any one of them? Imagine a long corridor, very long one, and on the both sides of this corridor are 100 doors. All of them are open. They all lead to different places, to different opportunities. And in the middle of this corridor stands a person. They can go in any direction, enter any door. They know this, but they don't move. They just stand there, looking from one door to another. Why don't they go? That's what I want to talk to you about today. This corridor is not just long, it's endless. The doors are of different sizes, different colors. Some are dark wood, massive, impressive. Others are light, made of glass, through which a soft light shines. Behind one door, you can hear laughter and cheerful voices. Behind another, quiet music, peaceful and deep. Somewhere the sea is roaring. Somewhere coins are clinking. Each door promises something of its own, something unique and beautiful. And our person knows they can choose any of them, absolutely any. No one is limiting them. No one is forbidding them. But that is precisely the problem. They stand there and think, what if behind that beautiful wooden door the career of my dreams is waiting? But what if behind the glass one is love of my life? And what if behind that distant one, where the music is coming from, is my true calling? And the longer they stand, the more they analyze. This door is too tall. It's probably something unattainable. This one is too narrow. What if it means limitations? And this one is too bright. Maybe it's a false promise. And gradually, analysis becomes more important than action. Planning becomes more important than movement. The search for the perfect choice becomes more important than the choice itself. You know, what the scariest what in the modern world is. FOMO, fear of missing out. Our person in the corridor is paralyzed by precisely this fear. They're not afraid of making their own choice. They're afraid that they'll make a right choice, but not the best possible one. That they'll enter a good door, but somewhere out there is a magnificent one. And you know what happens over time? They start to dream that someone will come and close all the doors, all of them except one. That someone would relieve them of the torturous need to choose. Would say, here is your door, only this one. There are no others. And then they could finally enter. It's a paradox, isn't it? We dreamed of the freedom of choice for so long, and having received it, we pray for freedom from choice. And tell me, do you recognize yourself in this person from the corridor? Honestly, is there such a corridor in your life where you've been standing for too long? There is, isn't there? Most of us have one. Career. That's the most popular corridor these days. Thousands of self-development courses, hundreds of new professions that didn't exist 10 years ago. You can become anything: a data scientist, a content creator, a coach, a blogger. And I meet people in their 30s who are still finding themselves, not because they lack ability or opportunity, but because they're afraid of choosing their own thing, afraid that somewhere out there is a profession that will make them happier. And relationships, dating apps have turned the search for a partner into that very same corridor of doors. Swipe left, swipe right, and endless feed of faces, each of which could be the one. And you know what happens? People meet someone good, but they can't stop because there are still hundreds of profiles on the phone. What if the next person is even better? What if the perfect match is just once light away? And so people spend years looking for the perfect partner while missing out on wonderful ones, because wonderful isn't perfect, and in the corridor of choice, good enough feels like a defeat. Do you have that when you're scrolling through options, drops, people, even movies for the evening, and you can't stop? When every choice feels insufficient. It's the epidemic of our time. We're tired of choosing, but we can't stop. Even the simplest decision, where to have dinner, where to go on vacation, which course to take on the weekend. People used to go to the only restaurant in town or read one of three books in the home library, and they were happy. And we can order food from anywhere in the world, read any book in seconds, travel to any country, and we're paralyzed by the number of options. Tell me, what takes more of your energy? The choice itself or the process of choosing? I think it's the latter, right? And this brings us to the most interesting part. You know what I've realized walking in this cafe? The wisest thing we ever did was to limit our menu. We don't have 50 types of coffee, not 100 desserts, just a few items, but each one is perfect. And you know what happens? People choose faster. They order with more confidence and, most importantly, then enjoy what they get more. Limitations provide freedom. It sounds paradoxical, but it's true. When an artist has only 3 colors, they create a masterpiece. When a poet has the stick form of a sonnet, great poems are born. A haiku, only 17 syllables, but it can contain an entire universe. And what if the poet were told, write as much as you want, however you want, about whatever you want? Do you think it would be easier? No, it would be paralyzing, because infinite choice is not freedom, it's a prison of possibilities. And here is what's amazing. When we finally make a choice, any choice, and stop comparing it to the alternatives, magic happens. We start to invest in that choice, to develop it, to turn it into something special. Tell me, do you have something in your life that your choice, not because it was perfect, but just because a choice had to be made? And how did that turn out? There is a secret that few people talk about. It's not the choice that makes a life beautiful. It's the life that makes the choice beautiful. When you marry someone, you're not choosing a ready-made relationship. You're choosing a person with whom you will build a relationship. When you choose a profession, You don't get a ready-made career. You get a direction in which you will grow. Remember our person in the corridor of doors. They think that a perfect ready-made world is waiting behind the door. But the truth is that behind any door is just a beginning, an empty room that you have to furnish. And you know what's most interesting? You can build a beautiful life behind any door, because happiness isn't something we find behind the right door. It's something we create with our own hands, with our decisions, with our love for the path we have chosen. So, maybe it's time to stop looking for the perfect door and just walk through the one that seems good enough. You know what I've noticed? People who are happy in life didn't necessarily make the best choices. They just stopped doubting the ones they did make. I have a little technique for when I realize I've been standing in my own corridor for too long. I give myself a deadline. Not to solve the problem, but to make a decision. By the end of the week, by the end of the day, sometimes, by the time of this conversation. Because there is one thing I've learned for sure. The perfect choice doesn't exist. There is only a choice, followed by perfect commitment. When you finally walk through a door, any door, something amazing happens. The corridor disappears. All the other doors cease to exist. There is only your path, and that path begins to create new opportunities you never even suspected. Movement creates choice, not the other way around. When you walk, the road appears beneath your feet. When you stand still, there is only the corridor of doors. And one more thing. Trust your intuition, not the part of you that analyzes and compares, but the part that just knows. We all have it. We've just forgotten how to listen to it. All the noise and endless choice. Tell me, is there a door in your life right now that you've wanted to walk through for a long time? The one you look at more often than the others? The one that resonates with you, but you're afraid it's not the best one. And what if? What if after our conversation you just go and walk through it? In the corridor, the important thing isn't which door you choose. It's to stop standing still, because any door you enter with an open heart and willingness to create leads to a beautiful life. And you know what will happen when you finally enter? At first, it will be scary, because the door to the corridor will close behind you, and you won't be able to go back to the endless choice. But after a while, you will realize that it's not a loss, it's a liberation. All the energy you spent on comparing and analyzing will suddenly become available for life, for creativity, for love of the path you have chosen. And the most amazing thing, in a year, in 5 years, you will realize that the door you entered back then was exactly your door. Not because it was objectively the best, but because you made it the best with your choice to stay, with your decision to build a life there. So go, choose the door that is calling to you right now, and walk through it, and your doubts, leave them in the corridor. Let they stand there and wait for someone else. See you soon. And remember, behind any door, what awaits you is not a destiny, but the opportunity to create one.